The declaration was made by accident. That's the part that stung the most. It wasn't a calculated move, a strategic decision, or even a reckless show of strength. It was a single mistranslation. One moment, Earth was just another minor species on the galactic stage, young, ambitious, and utterly insignificant. The next, we had just declared war on the most feared species in the entire universe, and the countdown to extinction had already begun. 1. The broadcast that shouldn't have happened. It all started with the First Contact Summit. After centuries of staring at the stars, of dreaming and fearing what might be out there, we finally got our answer. We weren't alone. We never had been. But instead of an invasion, instead of warships blotting out the sky, Earth had been greeted with an invitation. The United Galactic Concord, a vast alliance of ancient species, had extended a hand. Not in friendship, not in war, but in something much more bureaucratic. A diplomatic meeting. The summit was being held on Zixian Prime, a world so advanced it made Earth look like a prehistoric rock with Wi-Fi. It was supposed to be simple. Earth's ambassador, an overconfident politician named Jonathan Carlyle, had been given one job: introduce humanity, establish trade relations, and most importantly, don't piss off the wrong people. And yet, that's exactly what he did. 2. The word that ended everything. The Grand Hall of Concordance was filled with hundreds of species. Towering reptilian warlords. Insectoid diplomats. Living clouds of sentient gas. Things we couldn't even perceive properly. Carlyle, ever the politician, stepped up to the podium, cleared his throat, and flashed the smirk of a man who had never been punched in the face by consequences. Esteemed members of the Concord, he began, on behalf of humanity, I bring a message of peace, cooperation, and prosperity. So far so good. He continued, his speech pre-written and carefully translated into galactic standard. But then, in an unscripted moment, he decided to improvise. He wanted to say, we are eager to stand among you as equals. Instead, thanks to a mistranslation in our outdated diplomatic software, he said something else. Something worse. In galactic standard, what came out was, we challenge the strongest among you for dominance. For a single, agonizing second, the hall was silent. Then, all hell broke loose. 3. The galaxy's deadliest reaction. The response was immediate. The nearest delegation, a species known as the Zalzir, rose to their feet at once. The Zalzir were legends. Not in the way Earth had legends of great warriors or conquerors. No, they were a species designed for war itself. 10 feet tall. Armored in organic plating that could shrug off artillery. A hive intelligence that allowed them to think and move as one. They had never lost a war. Because they never fought wars. Wars required survivors. The Zalzir didn't leave any. And humanity had just challenged them. The Zalzir's supreme warlord, a towering figure with burning orange eyes, stepped forward, their voice reverberating through the chamber like thunder tearing through steel. Challenge accepted. Carlyle paled. The other species backed away from Earth's delegation immediately. No one intervened. No one spoke up. Because no one had ever survived angering the Zalzir. And now, Earth was officially at war with extinction itself. 4. The countdown to oblivion begins. The declaration of war was ratified in under an hour. The Zalzir didn't need time to prepare. They were always ready. By the time humanity even realized what had happened, an entire Zalzir battle fleet had already mobilized, heading directly for Earth. Not for negotiations. Not for demands. For annihilation. Earth had 7 days before the fleet arrived. 7 days before the single most effective war machine in the universe turned our planet into dust. Panic spread like wildfire. The United Nations collapsed into screaming debates. The military scrambled to form a defense, even knowing that nothing we had could stop them. And in the shadows of it all, a desperate plan was forming. Not to win. That was impossible. But to survive. Because if Earth was going to go down, we weren't going down without a fight. Earth had 7 days before the Zalzir fleet arrived. 7 days before the single most feared war machine in the galaxy wiped us from existence. And no one, not the diplomats, not the generals, not the brightest minds of our species, had a single idea how to stop it. Panic was immediate. World governments collapsed into chaos. The internet drowned in theories, doomsday cults, and frantic prayers. Some people wanted to surrender, but there was no one to surrender to. The Zalzir weren't coming for talks. They were coming to end us. But in the darkness, in the growing shadow of the coming fleet, a plan was forming. It wasn't a good plan. It wasn't a smart plan. But it was the only plan. and it might be just crazy enough to work. 1. The Desperation Gambit. The War Council had formed in an underground bunker beneath Geneva, one of the few secure locations still functional after the global riots. Inside, Earth's last decision-makers sat in absolute silence, staring at a holographic display of the incoming Zalzir fleet. "How many?" President Patel asked. General Monroe, the head of Earth's combined military forces, didn't look up. "Enough to kill us 100 times over." The Zalzir weren't sending a warning shot. They weren't sending an invasion force to conquer Earth. They were sending an eradication fleet, the same kind that had wiped out entire civilizations before us. Earth's combined nuclear arsenal? Useless. Our most advanced warships? Might as well be made of paper. AI warfare? They had countermeasures before we even knew what hacking was. Carlyle, the man who had accidentally started this nightmare, rubbed his temples. There has to be a way out of this. Some loophole. There is. The voice came from the back of the room. A woman stepped forward, Dr. Elena Park, Earth's leading xenolinguist. "We challenge them to a duel." Silence. Patel frowned. "Excuse me?" Dr. Park pulled up the transcript of Carlyle's disastrous speech. The words he used? They don't translate to war. They translate to something closer to an honor duel. Carlyle blinked. "You're saying I didn't just declare war?" "No," Park said. "You challenged them to a one-on-one combat trial." The room erupted. Shouting. Arguing. Oh, if this was a duel, not a full-scale war, then maybe, just maybe, Earth had a chance. But that hope died just as fast. Because the Zalzir's champion would be the deadliest warrior in the galaxy. And humanity? We didn't have one. Yet. 2. The search for a champion. Earth had one day to find a warrior who could stand against the most advanced killing machine in the universe. The list of candidates was short. Special Forces veterans? Not fast enough. Martial arts legends? Not strong enough. Augmented super soldiers? Didn't exist yet. We needed someone who wasn't just strong, but someone who could outthink an enemy that had never been beaten. That's when they found him. Elias Voss. Ex-mercenary. Last survivor of the Titan War. A man with a record so classified that half the room wasn't even allowed to know why he had been locked away. His specialty? Winning fights he was never supposed to win. They dragged him out of a prison cell beneath the Atlantic Ocean. Shackled. Uninterested. "Pass," Voss said when they told him the situation. Monroe slammed a file on the table. "You don't have a choice." Voss looked at the file. Paused. And for the first time since being pulled from his cage, he actually smiled. "All right," he said. "Tell me who I'm killing." 3. The Zalzir's chosen monster. While Earth scrambled, the Zalzir had already made their choice. Their champion was Tal the Hollow. A genetic superweapon bred for one purpose: absolute destruction. Over 500 confirmed kills in single combat duels. Not across a lifetime. In the last 5 years. It was rumored that Tal had never lost a battle. That it wasn't even possible for him to lose. Because his body adapted. To everything. He had survived plasma blasts to the chest. Knives through the brain. Point-blank nukes. And the worst part? Tal didn't just kill his enemies. He absorbed them. Took their best abilities, their tactics, their strength. Every opponent who had ever fought him had only made him stronger. And in 6 days he would arrive. Voss had 5 to train. 5 days to become something beyond human. Because the only way to kill something like Tal was to stop thinking like a man and start thinking like a monster. Preparing for the impossible. The world watched as Elias Voss prepared for the fight that would decide humanity's survival. Earth's greatest minds gave him every advantage they could. Experimental combat implants. Bioenhancements designed to push him beyond human limits. Military simulations of Zalzir battle tactics. But none of it would be enough. Because in 5 days, Voss wasn't just fighting to win. He was fighting to rewrite the rules of survival itself. The duel would take place on neutral ground. A barren moon orbiting a dying sun. No weapons. No reinforcements. No second chances. And if Voss lost? The Zalzir wouldn't just kill him. They would erase Earth from history itself. The countdown continued. The world held its breath. And in the depths of space, a warlord named Tal grinned, eager for the slaughter to come. Elias Voss had 5 days to prepare. 5 days to become something more than human. Because in 6 he would step onto a barren battlefield against Tal the Hollow, the single most perfected killing machine the universe had ever seen. And if he lost, Earth would burn. 1. The Science of Survival. Day 1. They plugged Voss into the most brutal training regimen ever devised. VR war simulations designed to kill lesser men in minutes. Physical augmentation so extreme it left him convulsing on the floor between sessions. Martial artists, soldiers, assassins from every major Earth nation, each taking their shot at breaking him down and rebuilding him into something that could win. But it wasn't enough. Because no matter how much faster, stronger, or smarter Voss became, he was still fighting like a human. And humans didn't beat the Zalzir. So they changed tactics. Day 3. They stopped training him like a man, and started training him like a monster. 2. The last lesson of the dead. No human had ever fought a Zalzir and lived. But there were records, military reports, distorted battlefield footage, dying transmissions from soldiers who had been erased. They studied them all. They fed them directly into Voss's mind. And in the horror of those last moments, of men screaming before being ripped apart, he saw it. The flaw. The tiny, microscopic crack in the Zalzir's perfect war doctrine. Tal was the best warrior in the universe. But there was one thing he had never faced before. And that was a man who wasn't fighting to win, but fighting to lose on purpose. 3. The gambit no one expected. Day 5. Voss sat in the training chamber, body wrecked from what they had done to him. Muscles enhanced to the breaking point. Reflexes accelerated beyond control. Dr. Park sat across from him, arms crossed. "You're sure this will work?" Voss cracked his knuckles. "No." Monroe grunted. "Not reassuring." Voss smirked. "Good. Because I need the Zalzir to believe that too." The plan was insane. Suicidal. And if it worked, it wouldn't just save Earth. It would rewrite the very way war was fought in the galaxy. The duel begins. Day 6. The battlefield was chosen. Zalcor, an uninhabited moon orbiting a dying red giant. Atmosphere thin. Gravity light. A wasteland of jagged obsidian spires and endless dust storms. The perfect place for a last stand. Tal arrived first. 10 feet tall. Armor grown from the bones of the enemies he had slain. Eyes burning like stars. And when Voss landed, stepping out onto the battlefield, he saw what true power looked like. Tal did not acknowledge him as a threat. He barely even looked at him. To the Zalzir warlord, this was not a fight. It was an execution. The signal was given. The duel began. And Voss did exactly what no one expected. He charged straight at Tal, and let himself be hit. 5. The strategy of losing. Tal's first strike shattered Voss's ribs. The second sent him crashing through an obsidian spire, leaving a trail of blood across the battlefield. The world watched in horror. Commentators screamed. Earth's leaders buried their heads in their hands. Because Voss wasn't fighting. He was losing. On purpose. Every time Tal struck, Voss took the hit. He let himself bleed. Let his bones break. Let his body collapse under the unstoppable force of the galaxy's deadliest warrior. And Tal, arrogant, perfect, invincible, did exactly what Voss had predicted. He stopped fighting smart. He started playing with his food. And the moment Tal's arrogance took over, that was when Voss struck. Voss had spent 6 days preparing to die. And now, as he lay broken on the battlefield, blood spilling across the jagged obsidian, the entire world thought he was already dead. Tal stood over him, the Zalzir warlord's massive form framed by the burning light of the dying sun. His armor gleamed, wet with Voss's blood. His grin was pure contempt. Earth had gambled. And Earth had lost. Or so everyone thought. Because Elias Voss hadn't come here to fight fair. He had come here to cheat. And Tal had just made the one mistake you should never make against a desperate man. He got too close. 1. The death of a monster. The moment Tal reached down to finish him, Voss moved. Faster than human. Faster than anything Tal had ever fought before. His right arm shot up, fingers digging into the gaps between Tal's armor. The Zalzir's grin flickered into confusion. Then shock. Then pain. Because Tal wasn't just being grabbed. He was being injected. Directly into his bloodstream, nanites, so small they couldn't be seen, so deadly they couldn't be stopped, began flooding his body. A gift from Earth's top scientists. A genetic bomb designed to do one thing. Scramble the Zalzir's perfect biology into absolute chaos. Tal's eyes widened. His body convulsed. The armor that had never been breached before now cracked from the inside out. The audience of the galaxy watched in stunned horror. The undefeated warlord of the Zalzir stumbled backward. For the first time in history, he wasn't winning. He was dying. And Elias Voss? He just smiled. Checkmate, you alien bastard. 2. The collapse of a warlord. Tal roared, a sound that had broken civilizations, shattered armies, ended species. But it didn't save him. The nanites were already inside, already rewriting him at a molecular level. His adaptation, his greatest weapon, was now his death sentence. His body couldn't stop changing. Muscles expanded and ruptured. Bones elongated, then snapped under their own weight. The warlord who had never known fear was now nothing but screams and agony. Tal the Hollow collapsed. And when his body finally stilled, the galaxy held its breath. Because the impossible had just happened. A human had killed a Zalzir in single combat. And that meant only one thing. Humanity had just rewritten the laws of war. 3. The aftermath of an impossible victory. For a long moment, there was nothing but silence. Then the Zalzir fleet, watching from orbit, turned and left. No retaliation. No last attack. No final vengeance. Because in their culture, a duel was sacred. Tal had fought. Tal had lost. And that meant Earth had earned the right to live. The galaxy, once certain of humanity's doom, now saw us in an entirely new light. We were no longer prey. We were not to be underestimated. We had survived. And worse, we had won. For the man who walked away. Elias Voss stood up, ribs screaming, vision flickering at the edges. The warlord's body lay at his feet. The crowd of the universe, silent. Watching. Processing. Fearing. He didn't say a word. Didn't need to. He simply walked away. Back to his ship. Back to Earth. Because the fight was over. And now, it was the galaxy's turn to be afraid. Rocket, the war is over. But the story isn't. Want to hear what happens when humanity becomes the most feared species in the galaxy? Subscribe to The Void Narratives now. Because survival isn't just about strength.